This show is produced by the Harwood Podcast Network.
Hi, I'm Cindy Harris, and we love making this show available to you free of charge. If you'd like to help us keep it that way, make a contribution to our Karma Jar or become a show sponsor. To learn more, visit our website. Today I've baked this delicious lemon olive oil cake, and I baked it in the Alfresco Imports Beehive oven, but you could bake it in your oven at home as well. It's a really interesting cake. Instead of using butter like we would normally do in cakes, it uses olive oil. In fact, if you want to follow along with me as I bake it, grab your smartphone and scan the QR code here on the screen, and that'll take you right to the recipe. You know, olive oil is a really healthy oil, and when you mix it with this lemon, it makes a delicious moist cake. Now today I'm going to be baking this cake in my Alfresco Imports Beehive oven, and I thought it would be fun to show you once again the falling oven technique. Now earlier in the day I had made all kinds of pizzas, and as the temperature of the oven is falling, it's perfect time for me to make this little cake. So what we're going to cook the cake in is just a stainless steel 9-inch cake pan. Now you want to make sure that it's not one with a coating on it of any kind. It's just a plain pan, but we do want to prepare it. So I've got some baking spray. I'm going to spray the sides and the bottom, and then I've cut a little round of parchment. I'm going to put that in the bottom and give it a little spritz. Then I'll set this aside and we'll get the batter ready. Now I'm going to get my dry ingredients together. So in a medium-sized bowl, I'm going to measure out 1 1/4 cups of flour. And to that, I'm going to add 1/4 cup of cornstarch. Now the cornstarch is going to help keep this cake nice and light. And to make it rise, 1 1/2 teaspoons of baking powder, then 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And then with my whisk, I'm going to whisk all of that together. We want to make sure that we get the cornstarch and that leavening mixed all throughout the flour. And then I'm going to set that aside. Now for this next part, I've got a medium-sized mixing bowl, and I actually have my little hand mixer out because I'm going to take 3 eggs, and I'm going to beat these until they're nice and light and frothy for about 2 minutes. Now you can see how light and fluffy these are getting. That's just what I want. Now with my little mixer going, I'm going to start sprinkling in the sugar. And this is 1 cup of sugar. Now the reason that I'm sprinkling it in is because I want to keep those air bubbles that I'm creating by mixing. I want to keep them. I don't want to flatten them. Then I'm going to let this go for another minute. Now do you see how thick and shiny that is? It's just beautiful. Now again with the beater on a slow speed, I'm going to drizzle in 1/3 cup of olive oil, and I'm going to drizzle it in just a little bit at a time, and then mix it in. You want to make sure that that oil is really mixed in before you add any more, because oil doesn't always want to mix in with ingredients easily, so we have to use that beater to help us mix it in. Now that the olive oil is mixed in, I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and I've got some lemons off my tree. I'm going to take the zest off the lemon. I want to make sure that I get about 1 teaspoonful of lemon zest, and then I'm going to cut the lemon in half and squeeze the juice through a little strainer. I'll measure out 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. I'm going to mix the flavorings in, and then I'm going to start sprinkling in my dry ingredients. And once the flour is all in, I'm going to continue mixing this for 1 more minute. Now with my spatula, I'm just going to make sure that all the ingredients on the side have been mixed in. And then we'll pour this into our cake pan. Now, if you wanted to, you could bake this in your regular oven at 350 degrees for about 40 minutes, but I'm going to take this out to the beehive oven. Now, using my infrared thermometer, I can see the deck is between 350 and 365, which is perfect. And I'm going to slide my pan into the back of the oven. And you'll notice I just have ash here. There's no flames. That's the falling oven. The oven is heated up enough where it's going to bake this cake. And look at it, after just 10 minutes, it's starting to rise really nicely. Now, a few minutes before the cake comes out of the oven, I'm going to make a lemon glaze that we're going to put on this cake. So in a small bowl, I'm going to put in 1½ cups of powdered sugar. And then I've juiced 2 lemons, and that gives you anywhere between 1/4 cup and 1/2 cup of juice. And I'm going to pour that in. And with glaze, the key is to stir and stir and stir. I like to use the back of my spoon to kind of help get some of the lumps out, but it's not really a problem. It doesn't have to be lump-free. You just want to get it pretty smooth. And you can see here, most of the powdered sugar is dissolved nicely. So I'm just going to set this aside until the cake is done in the oven. Now it's been about 40 minutes. You'll see I'm using my long tongs to pull the cake out, and then I am going to use a toothpick to test to see that it's clear. You would do that even if you were using your conventional oven, and then I'm going to go ahead and bring it into the house. So here is our cake. And now I've got a long wooden skewer. This is going to seem wrong, but we want to do it. We want to take and poke holes all over the top of it. Then we're going to take our glaze. You'll want to stir it a little bit up. And you can even see as it sat here, it's gotten even more and more smooth. And then we're just going to spoon that all over the top. I like to start on the edges, because that's a lot of times where it doesn't get. It always seems to pool right in the center. I use the back of my spoon to kind of cover the whole top. Now that glaze is going to sink into the holes and flavor the inside of the cake too. I'm going to let this sit here in the pan for about 20 minutes. Now after 20 minutes, you can see all that glaze has been soaked up by the cake. I'm going to take one of my paring knives. I'm going to run it along the edge of the cake to loosen it up. And then I'm going to take the cooling rack and put it on top of the cake and flip it over. And there it comes out, and we'll peel that piece of parchment off. And now I'm going to take my glass plate, put it on top, and flip it back over. And now I'm just going to let this cake cool on the rack until it comes to room temperature. Now that the cake is at room temperature, I'm going to take a little sifter with some powdered sugar, and I'm just going to sift that on the top. And then I'm going to cut a wedge. Now you can see how moist this cake is. And now we'll have a little taste. The top has a little bit of a crunch. The inside is really, really moist, nice and lemony, and you get a sense that there's something in there. You're not quite sure what it is. That's the olive oil. It's delicious. I'd like to thank my friends at Alfresco Imports for letting me use the beehive oven to bake this delicious cake. Now, if you'd like to try the lemon olive oil cake at home, go to our website and go to the Sweet World show notes. I'll have the recipe there for you. Don't forget to join us on Facebook. That's where I do all my vlogging. And as always, if you have any ideas or questions for me, please send me an email. I'll see you next time.